So, welcome back guys to another deck profile. I know it's been a while, but today I'm back with something rather different. Rather than going for Key the Century, where you always see things in the light, let's take a look at one of the decks in Vanguard, the Cardinal deck, which spends all its time in the darkness, protecting Crave from otherworldly threats. So yeah, as you can see, we are in the Bristol Dark Knight, so you can't see anything, so let's brighten it up. Now, let's begin. So to recap, Orfist is the secondary deck in Vanguard, behind Prison, and it's featured primarily as the kind of successor to Link Joker. As you can see by the art style, is very keen to Starvaders, and you uses the World Orders, basically these four, to set the world into Dark Knight or Abyssal Dark Knight, depending on how many copies you have in Order Zone. So if one is Dark Knight, if two in Order Zone is Abyssal Dark Knight. By accelerating this state, you unlock skills like Orfist's skill to generate Shadow Army tokens, which are 15k grade ones, from outside of the deck, which can be used for Beatdown or as cost for skills as we see in like set 2 and set 3. Now let's get into the new cards in set 3. So yes, moving on to set 3 cards, apart from the obvious like critical triggers and some generic cards, here are the 3 most impactful cards for Orfist, which you should be considering. Or like not playing Ryuja in this deck list in particular? Well, it's definitely a card to consider. I'll go through the skills briefly, but to find out more about what they bring to the deck, I'll link it to the article below. So first up is Cardinal Draco Distierde. Yeah. So it's a skill, continuous, both play turns by the way, depending on your state of your world. So if you're in Dark Knight, basically on turn 2, if you play Order on turn 2, it becomes 12k on both players' turn. Or if you're Abyssal Dark Knight, it's a 15k. So it makes it a 15k body on both players' turn, making it hard to carry it off, and so it's a constant pushing card. Then, continuous, auto rather. At the end of battle, you finish attacking anything, I think of Vanguard, you can retire 3 for tokens. So this directly is like, whatever you pay for Orfist Spawning 3, you're killing off all 3 to withstand him for extra attack. It's a really hefty cost, but giving basically a deck which was locked to 3 attacks per turn, is 4th attack whenever you want, is really powerful, and having a constant base on both players' turn is very valuable for at least the way I play Orfist. Then the next card is Beyond the Perpetual Time, a new set World Order. So what it does is when you play it, although it's +2, you give your field basically like a continuous. This is like passive. Whenever you place a new Shadow Army token, you get 5k for the turn. So just playing on turn 3, you actually give all the tokens 5k, giving you 3 20k tokens for the turn, which is very strong for aggro plays, and it even allows you to push without committing any other card in hand. This skill also doesn't only work on that turn, so as long as it's on the order zone, even in the upcoming turns, new tokens will still get the power. This skill will even stack if you have more copies of it. Although because the hefty +2 is realistically only to be used once a game unless you build towards it. Now, the one card I don't really play my build, but it has very high potential, is Cardinal Fang Ryuja. So Ryuja, basically when placed from hand to top 3, add a World Order from them to hand, put the rest at the bottom and shuffle. Then activate. So +1, if your Vanguard is Cardinal Deals Orfist, you can retire itself to call a Shadow Army token. So more ways to get tokens, and it's a good early play if you want to play Rush, but I don't think there's space for this card personally, but you can definitely mess around with it. Now onto my deck ratios. So this is my personal build. I feel for Orfist, you should be playing it a very aggro deck personally, because I think control has its limits, especially seeing how a lot of decks try to end the game on turn 3, turn 4 sometimes. Having Bruce and Bastion still there, even Lyrical has really strong pressure. So let's start easily with the 3 Persona rights, which is the Cardinal Deals Orfist. Then 4 Cardinal Draco Elevated. So this is the card from set 2. So what it does is similar to Distierde before. What it does is when it attacks, it gets 2k for Dark Knight, it gets 5k if you're Abyssal Dark Knight. This doesn't work on both players' turn because it only works on attack, but it still hits about the same numbers in the regard. Then the auto skill is end the battle with attack. You can retire 1 token to retire any of your opponent's regard. which is very strong. It's one of the cheapest spot removal in the game. Then for me personally, I play the 4 this territory because it's a very strong finisher. And so Renegade you want to push with. Then great ones, 4 Sentinels, 4 Tamburino to give us a more card draw and all this, and also it's a DC-15k when boosting a Shadowmane token, allowing you to go through your deck faster and just hit numbers even without personal rank. Then to round it off, we play 4 Detonation Mutant Overmind. As for our right deck, we play something very simple. A starter, Rotis, which is a skill to take any world order from the deck into your hand. Tubisia, which gives a unit 5k when you play order. And of course, Orfist. Now, of course I left out something, which is something I feel needs its own section to be discussed, which is how many world orders are you playing. So personally, I've chosen to go with 7. I feel it's a very nice number for me. And this is a rather odd lineup, I think, for most people. The typically a great list is normally like 3 of this, maybe 2 of this sometimes to deal control. But personally, I went with 7 world orders, playing 4 Holding Moonlight, gives us a draw and it's our best order on turn 2. And I play 1 of each, In the Darkness Nobody Knows, Beyond the Perpetual Time, and Eclipse Moonlight. So why do I play 1 of each? So generally when I'm Mulligan, I want to always be finding 1 of this, ideally. And depending on the game state or the matchup, let's say I go second, if I fight like Overdress, right? They got a big Verena, and I really need an on-demand retire, I can use Rotis from the right deck to take this out from the deck immediately. Then for decks or matchups, you can go more aggro and you're not really afraid of removal. Beyond the Perpetual Time is the natural decision, because this is the most useful in the long run. Then Eclipse Moonlight, I really feel it's a one-off, because I've seen some builds playing 3-3 of this, but generally I want to use my Con Blast for Orfist. So this is only really safe for early game plays if you got Overmind. Otherwise you potentially risk damage denying yourself of the 2 Con Blast sometimes, which does hurt. But what it does is when you play it on turn 2, come off fun, you get a Shadowmane token. So yeah, all these cards share the same effect, where if you got 1 of them in the zone and no other non-world orders, so no prison mix, no meteor mix, yeah, just might be pure world orders. 1 is Dark Knight, 2 is Abyssal Dark Knight. Yeah. So this lineup I choose to go with. I think it works really well. I like having the 4 Whole Wing because the 1 draw is always useful. Whole Wing is a 5th grade 2 order, and also Overmind place comes up when you go second, maybe quite good. These 2 is pretty much depending on the situation, or you happen to chance upon them, you really can make them go very far. For trigger lineups, pretty obvious. The 4 heals. I play 4 of the front trigger, which I could play more crits, but I think having the 4 fronts, having the valuable 20k shield is pretty valuable, and Orfist generally can attack the Vanguard no problems first, because well, your colors are pretty equal number, as I'll show later. So having the 4 fronts and the 20k shield helps you survive against Bastion especially, and other decks to try to hit that 28k mark. Then I play, this is a personal choice, I play 4 of the new critical trigger. This is not really that relevant, so if you can't find them, it's not too bad, but what it does is, at the end of the battle, it boosts, we can put it in the soul, give a Renegade 2k, and that's it. Yeah, it doesn't help too much, but getting the extra soul sometimes, namely in the prison matchup of all matchups, can be very valuable. Especially if you, let's say you play Beyond the Perpetual Time early and you need more souls to play more Hollow Wings future, why not? But typically you're never calling out this to attack, so it's only for the prison matchup, but 8 crits, then 3 crits here, the typical 5k crits. I may even switch to the 5k crits because the numbers matter on turn 2, but we'll see. Then of course I overtrigger for Barangate, which doubles the power and critical in the front row. So that summarizes the deck. I'll show you a brief overview of the deck. So for those who came here for the deck list only, here you go. This is what I'm playing. As for some card discussions of why I decided to max out on certain cards, maybe Overmind is still very classic, Berserk Con Blast for Orfist, and well, Soul is always welcome. Then Tamburino at 4 is another thing I think not many people play, but I feel Tamburino is very underrated, as this card alone can be finished alright. No thought against 15k, so if you call it behind a token, which is a 50k, it actually forms a 23 plus 15. So this is a 38k line already, which is really insane. Granted that this can work on turn 2 if you're playing with Eclipse Moonlight, which is this order, or you just have it like on turn 3. This actually allows the deck to be more, allows you to play card by card, which is really interesting. As for Mulligan tips, I would say keep Mulligan at all times, or if you're sure in the matchup that you need the retire, definitely try to find Overdress, and if you really can't draw him, use Cubisia to take him out immediately, so that if you on-demand retire on turn 3. This Thursday might be excessive at 4, but I feel in this current meta game, you really want to be rushing your opponent with Orfist, as playing a control game against like Bruce, which has better control options than you, and even like Bastion, which does have resist for some units, may not really be that effective at all times. That's why I feel Orfist should be played very aggressively, so there is some room for discussion over there. I decided to play 4-4 of Overdress, and this just make sure I draw my cards to rush, but also because sometimes going first, this card's really oppressive. Sometimes your opponent's only like grade, let's say your opponent's on grade 2, they give it the 2 damage for Orfist, you just rush them, you play beyond perpetual time, you check a trigger, this is like 25k, and 25k, that's a minimum, and you still got the Vanguard and the Vanguard, so just having all the magic numbers on your opponent on grade 2 can really guarantee the game. And of course, I never want to be in a situation where later in the game, I don't draw this card, because the extra attack might actually win the game. So yeah, as we say, the main Mulligan things you want to keep is personal rights. This Thursday going first, Overdress instant matchups. So Orfist really tests your player knowledge and gets game knowledge in matchups very well. So let's see, we draw top 5. Okay, so what we have here, okay, let's say we have one order card, we can keep that personal right and be useful. I'd like to keep the grade 2 to rush, so yeah, I can just throw the rest. Draw 2, okay, pretty okay. So let's stand and draw. Okay, let's draw 1 for right deck. You can go into Cubisia. So this is actually an interesting hand, as we have Boba Mine hand. So what Boba Mine basically does is, you can actually go for the Eclipse Moonlight play on turn 2. So this is one play if you have Boba Mine. So let's say we do take the Eclipse Moonlight. Basically, next turn, your opponent gives you a damage or something. Let's say we take damage, then next turn, stand draw. You can throw 1 card. Go into Cubisia. You can play the Eclipse Moonlight here to immediately get a token out and give 5k to the Vanguard of the unit, they're both 15k. So this is a very strong turn to rush. I recommend going for it when you got Boba Mine, as you reform the counter blast immediately. So like, let's say we do something like this, let's call this out actually. Attack, 2 strong attacks. Boba Mine goes to soul, counter charge 1. So this then leaves your opponent's situation where you have 15k and a 10k. So they either can try to damage down you by hitting a 15k unit, you're like, sure, 1 pass. On grade 2, they need to have a booster usually to hit. Or they can do damage. So this one you can play into Orfist really easy. So example of a bot you can do on turn 3 with just any grade 1 booster and this Thursday. So this typically happens on turn 3. If you like draw this in hand, you should search out this one. You play this, and turn 3 you play this, so plus 2. Then you come plus 2 with Orfist to get the 3 tokens. So what happens here is that Abyss on turn like it activates, so this thing gets 5k. This gets 5k too, so I'll just give 10k here. That's easier to see. So you can just go through the Vanguard. So this is actually like 18 plus 20. So this is 38k. Then twin drive, let's say we get nothing, but if we did get a trigger, we can pound the trigger onto this Thursday. Then this is like 20 plus 8, 28. Then this will be 20 by 15, so this is 35. Then if you check triggers, you can actually retire the 3 to restand this thing to get 4th attack. So this number is actually very powerful on turn 2. And even if you don't go for the retire, this is can easily push your opponent to 4 damage, which is what Orfist really wants. Also, as during your opponent's turn, this is a 15k target too. So having 2 15k targets is actually very hard to damage the deck, unless your opponent really just keeps on retiring your field. Maybe like Overlord attacking rearguards, maybe like Prison imprisoning, which Prison's pretty middle matchup. So yeah, this is like one of the strengths of using Perpetual Time. Then if you do like retire with the Dexterity, share trigger, you get, like I said, it's a bomb my Dead Resolve. You get damage check or something. If you get a Persona right, so let me get the Persona right. This is where it gets really powerful. So you Persona right, draw 1. So Persona right gives us the 10k to the front row. The whole front row gets 10k with Persona right. So I'll just put it over here. Yeah, then this cards will get 5k too. Then you can come plus 2 again to get the tokens again. 1, 2, 3. Then all of them will power up by 5k again, which is really powerful. So let's put 10 here. Let's put 10 here. Yeah, so this is a 25k breakout already. The power trigger is 35k retender on its own. So it's like 35 plus 20 is 55k, withstand 35. And that's really what you want to be pushing with this theory of it. Of course, one thing to note is that as it does retire 3 regards, this skill cannot be resolved on the same turn as Tamburino and Elevated. So this is where the discussion where people say, why do you play 4 of this? So I got on the rush with it. I don't really mind not having the skill on all the time. But there are some turns with Orfist where you rather hold back your skills to actually pressure with the retire and the draw instead. So these things can work with each other, as they only count the token, 1 token for retire. I think counts 3, so retire 3. That leaves no tokens for these guys to do your job. So yeah, another thing to note is that sometimes even without Persona right, having this Tamburino column is actually very strong. And this is a 38k number, and this always hit 30k, similar to Dexterity. So with that, I hope you enjoyed this Orfist overview for set 3. Again, if you want to find out more of my thoughts on the 3 new cards right highlight below, there is a short article down below as in the link to let you know the ups and downs for all 3 cards and why you should consider them for playing Orfist in set 3. I feel Orfist in the Central Meta game is a really powerful pick, as while the some of the strongest like endgames like Bastions and Bruises are Dark Strain columns, Final Rush, Orfist has the tools to deal with a lot of decks. So what I'm presenting here is just my early build, which I find a lot of success, and I just want to share with you all what's potentially possible. You can think of this like a very baseline build, and we can adapt it to go more aggro. Let's say we cut those retire attacks in to play more beyond Perpetual Time, and even playing more soul charging cards to make sure you can resolve that twice. As imagine having 2 of that, all the tokens get 10k every time it's called. That's crazy. 25k columns every day, 50k columns even. Of course, we can also go the retire option by cutting down some of like the Dexterity to play Astrid to even more retire control. So yeah, in that regard, Orfist is one of the strongest control slash beatdown decks, which really makes me love playing it in this format as opposed to like Bastion, which is like pretty straightforward, go all in. So yeah, I hope you find this useful, and well, let's return to the night, shall we? Okay, goodbye.